All right, so next thing is going to be piecing the 9-patch blocks. I've got timestamps here for both the block at a time version and the chain piecing version. Either way, you always do the first block start to finish, so you've got a reference block for the rest of the process. So I'm going to do one block start to finish, so I've got a reference block, and then I'm going to chain piece. So the next step for me will be doing all of the chain piecing. Okay, so I'm trying out a POV cam. It's actually head mounted. I've been really struggling this whole time to try to find a way to film me at the sewing machine where my hands don't block what you're trying to see me do. And everything so far has not really worked out that well. So I'm trying this head mounted POV cam. The quality is a little sketchy, but I feel like you can see what I'm doing better.
Okay, so you can see that I managed to sew 3 of these the wrong way before I realized that I was sewing them the wrong way. And that's the danger with chain piecing, is once you get going, your brain kind of disconnects and you can make the same mistake several times before you realize it. So here I am. I'm going to rip all this out. I'm using my scissors to rip seams out and a seam ripper. Sometimes I just find it easier to snip them rather than grab the seam ripper, and frankly I don't want to get up from my sewing table and go find my seam ripper, so I'm doing this the easy way. You'll also notice just after I discovered that I had sewn 3 of these wrong, my bobbin ran out. Get used to that. Bobbins have a tendency to run out at the least opportune moment. Okay, so that one's now right. At the least opportune moment. And again, if you are chain piecing or working on a really long seam, maybe putting rows together, you can run out your bobbin and not even realize it and get partway done to where you think you're nearly done, and then you discover that nothing actually sewed and you have to go back and do it all over again. Trust me, you will do that as well. All right. I'm going to shut up so I can fast forward the rest of this so you don't have to watch it. All right. Yank out the loose threads. I promised you when I started this series that I'd go ahead and make mistakes on camera. Here I go. But this, yeah, I think when I was telling you during the tools and materials episode about getting a seam ripper because it's going to become your best friend, this is a really good example of that. We spend a lot of time ripping out seams in the quilting world. Like I said, that's the danger with chain piecing, is you get going, and you kind of go into a zone, and you can get four or 5 blocks into it and not realize that you're doing something wrong over and over and over again, like I just did here, because stupid. All right, you do want to yank out all these little threads, though. Don't shortcut yourself and not do it, because what'll happen is they'll get sewn into the seam, and they will probably stick out on the front, and these little threads, once they're sewn into a seam, can be really hard to pull back out again, so it's just better to do it now, even though it's kind of a pain in the butt. All right, let's get the ones out of this. So you just continue to march. You know, this shouldn't be considered a showstopper or a reason you shouldn't quilt, because I've been doing this for 20 some odd years and I still do it. Alrighty, this way. Alright, so we'll do these last 3. Not the end of the world. It's going to happen a lot. Trust me, it'll also... What happened here? Oh, I got tangled up again. Okay. If you have to stop in the middle of a seam to check a tangling problem or something, that's one of the times. Remember I told you you don't really need to do stitch locking? You know, the back and forth thing that we do at the beginning in seams in quilting. That's one time you want to, because you're starting in the middle of a side and nothing's going to cross that seam. So you gotta stitch lock it so that it'll stay put. Alrighty, other way around. You notice I'm seam locking on the fly here. And I'm only doing that because I've been doing this for so long and I find it really fast for me. There's a loose thread. There is no shame in going to the cutting table and pinning these. There is no shame at all. I did that for years until I got confident enough that I could do it on the fly and they would match up. So, you know, you do you, right? Alrighty, loose threads. Last one. I'm also feeling to make sure that underneath seam allowance is pointed the right direction when it goes under. And again, if you get some, when you get over to the ironing board and you discover some are folded the wrong way, not the end of the world. You just press it and move on. Nobody will ever see the back of your quilt. All right. All right, off to the ironing board and iron, and this batch is done.
Okay, we've got all the blocks done at this point, so we can check that off the list. All right, next thing is assembling the rows.